On December 31st, 2020, at 11:59 p.m., it felt as if the entire world waited in anticipation of seeing the infamous year of 2020 be a thing of the past. And as the clock struck 12, many cried tears of relief, while others danced in the streets, literally celebrating with elation that the hardships and anxieties and brokenness the year had brought would be no more. And on January 1st, 2021, as the world awoke, many were faced with a painfully harsh reality. Life and the world we live in is in fact still incredibly broken. The same heartbreak and loneliness and insecurities and anxieties that humans have been experiencing since the beginning of time are in fact still present in 2021. The new year has not brought us relief from division or disease or death or hate or injustice. And it begs the question, why? Why has there always been, and why is there still so much brokenness in our lives and in our world? Well, in the first two chapters of the Bible, we actually see a world that is completely free from brokenness. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, it says, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. And so the world that God has just finished creating is completely perfect. Adam and Eve, the first two people that he created, are living in perfect harmony with one another. The land and the world around them is completely free from disease and disaster. And above all else, they have a perfect, unhindered, personal, intimate relationship with the God that created them. But then something really bad happens. Essentially, Eve is tricked by Satan, and both Adam and Eve make the decision to rebel against God. They choose sin over obedience, and there are major consequences for their actions. Amongst many other things, in Genesis, we see for the first time Adam and Eve experience shame and hostility in their relationship with one another. God tells them that the land that they once lived in perfect harmony with would now be a great challenge to subdue and a great burden to live in. And on top of that, Adam and Eve are now no longer allowed to live forever. God says to Adam in chapter 3, verse 18, "For dust you are, and to dust you will return." And we see that for the first time, death enters into the picture of the human experience. And all of this stemming from the greatest consequence of Adam and Eve's disobedience. The once perfect, intimate, personal relationship they had with God that was perfect is now broken. Now imperfect Adam and Eve are no longer allowed to live in the full presence of a perfect God. And so they're kicked out of that perfect world. And from this moment forward in the Bible, we see a world that doesn't look too different from the world we live in today. I mean, in Genesis alone, just the first book of the Bible, we see murder, we see betrayal, we see natural disasters, disease, and injustice. People doubt God's goodness, and they doubt his faithfulness, and they doubt if he's even real. And we see that the consequences of Adam and Eve's disobedience extends far beyond themselves, and nearly everything around them and everything that would come after them would be a tainted, distorted, and broken version of what it was originally created to be. Hence, the very tainted, distorted, and broken world we live in today. But our God is merciful and full of compassion. And even in the midst of Adam and Eve's transgressions, God makes a promise to redeem his people. God says to Satan, "I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." And the promise we get here is one of rescue and redemption. God fulfills this promise by sending his son, Jesus, into the world, into this broken world that we live in today. And in this world, Jesus lived a perfectly obedient, sinless life, the life that Adam and Eve failed to live, the life that you and I fail to live every single day. And at the end of his perfectly obedient, sinless life, Jesus was hung on a cross to die a sinner's death, the death that was meant for us, and he died. But 3 glorious days later, Jesus resurrected. He rose from the grave, proclaiming and proving his victory over sin, over Satan, and over death. And for any and everyone that puts their faith in Jesus and in his good works, they find the hope of reconciliation. See, Jesus' perfect sacrifice made a way for the broken relationship between God and man to be reconciled, redeeming the greatest thing that was lost in the fall. We now once again can have a personal, intimate relationship with the one that created us. And though the world offers death and destruction, Jesus offers us life and life abundant. And for those that put their trust in him, not only do they get the ultimate gift of being reconciled to God, but also the future hope of living in a world that is completely free from brokenness. In fact, in the final 2 chapters of the Bible, in the book of Revelation, we see a new heaven and a new earth that is completely perfect, where there will be no more death and no more pain and no more mourning, where God's people will live in perfect harmony with the rest of creation and live in perfect and authentic unity with one another. A world that's free from disease, free from anxiety, free from insecurity, free from loneliness, free from death, free from depression, free from injustice, and completely free from brokenness. And though we can be certain that this year and every year to follow will come with its own set of hardships and trials and brokenness, as citizens of heaven, we can fix our eyes on Jesus and also be certain that this too shall pass as we press on to our eternal, perfect, completely free from brokenness home with our Heavenly Father.